Glenn Brand, also known as DJ Technics, representing Baltimore, Maryland. It's easier now than it was in earlier times because all you had you have to soak it all up. I'm only as good as I am because I came up in an era where there was pop and rock. Glenn Brand, also known as DJ Technics, representing Baltimore, Maryland.
What and who inspired you to become a DJ?
Coming up in Baltimore, I was influenced heavily by DJ Spin, the New Marks, Jeffrey C, Terry T, We Rock Crew, AP Crew, just anybody that was out on WWIN and WEBB back in the day. I pretty much came up under lineage of DJs in Baltimore.
So what was that time like? Give me a little bit of insight on it. Time was like in Baltimore.
1982 is when I finally decided to venture into DJing, but I've been collecting records since 1977. So I already had like a musical knowledge and a collection. I just needed the tools to start tying things together. And I came up again in the 80s watching DJs out Drew Hill Park play music with 6 or 8 turntables and making people move. And I thought to myself, I think that's something I can do with these records. And I felt like it was time for me to do something useful with it other than just hoard this massive amount of music. Because by about 10 or 11 years old, I already had records the way people have Jordans now. They were just stacked up high, and I needed to figure out exactly how I was going to utilize the music outside of just collecting it.
So how do you see music compared to those days as a DJ to what's happening now?
Music in the past, in the 80s and 70s, and even in the 90s, was three-dimensional. So everything was the front, the back, the sides, tied together. It made you emotional. It made you laugh, it made you cry, it made you sing. Not so much of that these days. The music now is kind of flat, you know, one-dimensional, but it's coming from people who might be living that. So while I feel like it might not be my thing, coming from DJing in the 80s and 90s, I do recognize that everyone has a story and a perspective. But coming from DJing in the 80s and 90s, the music now just appears flat on the surface. It doesn't have sides or back. It's just one-dimensional, 1D. But again, everyone has a story. music is a revolving door. It has rotated back to what felt good to people who weren't there. It's very telling because people in their 20s and 30s are into everything 70s, 80s, and 90s now, so it's trending again. And again, music being a revolving door has allowed us to represent this good music that some of them wasn't even here to enjoy, but they just know of it because someone recently did a reference to a song from the 70s or 80s. Me being a purveyor of music, again, I have this massive record collection, and I've always been on the forefront of music. I get an opportunity to present this music to people that just know it, but don't know its heritage or its history. So me playing the 45s and the music from the 70s and 80s gives these Generation Y people an authentic perspective on just what was going on with that music because I was there. I understand it and I know it. And me being a representative of Baltimore club music culture, I already have a name. They trust me with club music. I'm trusted with house music, but they don't know. Before it was genres, it was just all music. The 45 thing has been trending since COVID, maybe a little before COVID, but people like Jazzy Jeff and Cash Money and Scratch Bastard, there's a 45 movement going on across the country where people like playing the small records because they're small and easy to carry. They're not as heavy and as awkward as carrying your whole record collection on a 12-inch. The 45s are fun. They keep you agile. And they're little pieces of history. Like you can look at a 45 and see exactly what was going on. If you're looking at a Motown record, Michael Jackson from 1973, it's a lot of information on just the label, and you get an idea just what was going on with that record at that time.
You alluded to a sense of a word that I heard somebody say, genreless, being able to play music of different backgrounds and different sorts in one set. Do you see a club or a DJ or a place where we can become, or a DJ can become that kind of DJ where, you know, you might play a house track, you might play a 45, you might play some rock. Are we moving into a sound where if you're doing a DJ set, music can be genreless, so you can just kind of play across generational of sounds?
So the question is?
So the question is, can a DJ set be a genreless set where you just play multiple?
Today now more than ever, DJs are playing what's known as open format. That means you're playing all genres of music and you're taking people on a journey around the world through music. Hip hop, R&B, reggae, old school, some go-go, some Afro house, some house music, some soca. But it's rare that the venue will actually tolerate that because people's tastes are formulated to one specific structure of music. Like right now, when people listen to the radio, they're only being introduced to what's popular and not an entire spectrum of music. The owners of the venues are usually trendy and they want you to stick to the simplicity. We want them in, play the top 100 in every genre, and let them eat, drink, be merry, and then send them home. Now, there are people that are genre specific and want you to stick to a format because the venue is based on that. The venue is where everything old school, or the night is where everything 90s, or where everything disco. They pick a genre, they aim it at a particular group of people, and let those people, you know, get full off of that.
Would you say music today in 2023 is evolving socially, creatively? Are we in a time now where music is expanding production-wise, or are we digressing and maybe in some sound? What's your feeling?
Music as a whole is limitless. The guys and just the people that are producing music now, it's endless. It's brilliant works of bodies of music everywhere, but the limits are coming from the lack of venues that can tolerate it. The underground circuit, when I say underground, the not so commercial venues where people go to hear music outside of Billboard. Billboard is very structured and they're forcing 200 records on everybody. So if you're really into music, you have to be willing to dig deeper than what's on Spotify or iTunes or whatever your favorite streaming platform is. You have to hunt good music down. Same with the venues. It's good music everywhere and it's limitless. And people nowadays are actually doing events where it's a no Billboard party. We don't want to hear anything that they play on the radio. We want everything subculture. That's kind of what's trending in not so big spots, but small cafes and boutiques and speakeasies have made a comeback. You know, hidden spots inside of a spot where you can cater to a specific taste of people. And that's where you're finding longevity, because the big venues are lasting maybe 3 or 4 years, and then the new group of people was coming in and determining what's being dictated. The people are dictating to the venue what they want. Where back in the day, you just came to the venue to hear music because you trusted the DJ. It's not that way anymore. Now, people come to the venue with expectations, and we have to do what they want us to do, and we don't get to present music the way we really can because they're holding their phones in your face saying, I want to hear this, I want to hear that. Whatever it was they are listening to in their car on the way to the club, they want to hear that in the club. So we really don't have the same responsibility to the people to present music properly when we're being dictated too.
I know as a DJ, you're traveling around many cities, many states, and I heard you mention you're from Baltimore. Where do you see Baltimore compared to, if it's a fair question, where do you see Baltimore compared to other cities and styles of DJing and music in venues, like a Chicago, like a Detroit, or DC? Give me your take on that.
Baltimore has always been a trend-setting city, unknowingly to itself. Like right now, in my opinion, the best DJs in the world are coming out of Baltimore, you know, in different arenas. So us compared to New York or Philly or Jersey or other places where they have history, we have an equal amount of history, if not more. You know, the guys that are pretty much holding down the fort in Baltimore were guys that pretty much pioneered stuff here 40 years ago, and they're still doing it. People don't realize that. These guys are playing music for masses on a global level out of Baltimore. They live here, but work the world. And not many people can say that. You know, Baltimore has always had a rich history in music and a rich entertainment history. But it doesn't get acknowledged because it's not enough of us talking about it. Baltimore has its own style. We typically haven't followed any trends, but we're in a bit of a trend now because we're being dictated to. But still, the guys that are the gatekeepers of the culture are out here working the world. And that's pretty much gone uninterrupted for about 40 years. If you really dig into Baltimore's history, you'll see that we pioneered a whole bunch of stuff, and a lot of that stuff is either coming into relevancy or it's been relevant unknowingly to people for the last 40 years. Baltimore, we've always been ahead of the curve on our culture and trend setting. I want to say now more than ever. There's hip hop, there's R&B, you know, house music. We got artists that's making new wave music. I pay attention to everything because it appears that I'm in certain lanes. Doesn't mean I don't know what's going on around me. Baltimore has crazy creative juices, but Baltimore kind of gets in its own way at times of, you know, the procedure and how things should go in terms of presenting it to the world. It's easier now than it was in earlier times because all you had to do was get your music to a record label and they would take it from there. If they saw something they could invest in, you was gone. Now, if you got a good sound or a good style of music or something that will create a trend for yourself, you can just put it on YouTube and you're gone. You can build a million people following and be set. Then the label's coming after you because you've already created a fan base and they can market you better than you can market yourself globally. Again, Baltimore is soaking wet with talent, but we lack the knowledge of the business side of it to push our culture ahead in a way that's conducive to everybody's taste on the business side. You know, we want to do out of the trunk situations and do it yourself is good, but sooner or later you're going to need that machine. And the machines has rules and regulations and mechanisms for how they will allow you to move. We're not always willing to acknowledge that because we got trust issues. You know, some of us have been damaged by the system and how things are run because certain individuals had an agenda, or, you know, it just didn't work out the way it should have had everyone done everything right. But again, Baltimore has this crazy, crazy gift of innovation and talent and things that only we can do, but we have issues in getting it forward and, you know, staying true to what's right for us.
So the culture and skill set of DJing, where do you see it going in the next 5, 10 years?
Oh, wow. Baltimore has, again, some of the most talented DJs I've met, and I've been around the world with it. The culture itself with DJing is limited only by the ability of whoever's presenting the music or playing the music to do the work. You can't stay stuck in one genre of music and ignore other genres of music. You have to soak it all up. I'm only as good as I am because I came up in an era where there was pop and rock and reggae, and, you know, music was music, and no one was saying you can only play this disco stuff. Well, the disco was also new age. It was also some funk. And then when rap came in, some of the stuff that was disco-y came in the form of some rap records because people were rapping to beats, 124 beats per minute. You know, that became important. The DJs are only as good as their desire to curate music on a wide spectrum. If you're going to stay stuck on one genre of music and not be knowledgeable of music, then you'll be limited and limiting yourself to a limited audience, because nowadays customers know more than you if you don't know music. People are home, they're on their phones, they're on their computers, the internet is there. Somebody can always shove a phone in your face and say, hey, you need to be playing this. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be right, because DJs only know what we have access to. Now, if you're only granting access to one particular genre of music, you're already limited. Someone can come and tell you about something that you should know about, and you don't, because you're staying fixated in one genre of music. Get to know it all. That's the best I can tell you. And most of the jocks here are, you know, knowledgeable. They are curators of music. They know about everything. The general public might not be ready to accept that, but we know music. Baltimore DJs have always known music because we came up from having to know it all.